I was playing Where Winds Meet, and this banner was staring straight at me. After what happened in the previous episode, I told myself I was finally done spending money. I was going to be responsible this time. Well, that lasted 5 seconds. While exploring Hexi, I came across a monk named Unknowing at Peace Ward Camp. After completing the quest, he taught me the Flute of the Tides mystic skill, which is a total game changer. With this skill now in my arsenal, infiltrating every sect to steal their martial arts suddenly became ridiculously easy. All I had to do was activate the flute and go full gremlin mode. I turned into an absolute menace, sneaking through their bases, knocking out guards left and right, and yoinking their secret techniques like it was a Black Friday sale. Zero guilt, maximum efficiency. After everything that happened at White Crown Fortress, we were finally handed the Imperial Scepter, a symbol of authority and a key to continue our journey. With the scepter raised high, we stepped forward into the brilliant light and emerged into the vast, snow-covered lands of Liang Zhou, where we can immediately go full gremlin mode again. Here, I can turn into a fish and race along glowing paths in the sky, dance around with a bunch of chicks in a pot that drop gold everywhere, stack myself on top of strong, muscular men, casually throw innocent civilians around like ragdolls, rob them dry, and even beat them up. But they just refuse to, no matter what I do. It's snowy, it's beautiful, and it's completely unhinged. While exploring Liang Zhou, I came across a mischievous little boy in the Skyrim market who tricks me into buying a fish lantern. Before I know it, I'm chasing after this kid named Hui, who proudly declares he'll one day become the governor of the land. What starts as a playful chase quickly turns serious when we suddenly encounter a massive white serpent. Of course, being the idiot that I am, my first brilliant idea was to climb straight onto the serpent and smack it on the head.
Oh shit, not good.
On the second try, I finally used my brain and carefully sneaked past the giant creature instead. After slipping by the serpent, we step into a series of ancient paintings that serve as portals into the past. Through 3 different memories, we witness the life of Zhang Yichao, a man born into wealth and power as the heir of a prominent military family. Despite having every comfort, the suffering of his people under foreign rule deeply troubled him. After experiencing all 3 memories, Hui, the young reflection of Zhang Yichao, finally confronts and slays the giant serpent. Only then did I understand that massive serpent was Zhang Yichao's inner demon, his private ambition, the part of him that acted without imperial permission and seized power first, even for a righteous cause. The most striking painting we see is his favorite mural, nearly 8 meters long. It depicts him leading a majestic army across a bridge, full of drums, warriors, and ceremony. He loved this painting so much he had a copy made. To him, it wasn't just about personal glory. It was a declaration that this land would always belong to the Tang. In the end, Zhang Yichao made the ultimate sacrifice. He voluntarily went to Chang'an as a political hostage to prove his loyalty, knowing he would never return home. The Homeward Vow is ultimately about letting go of personal ambition for the greater good. The painful but noble choice to put loyalty and duty above everything else. A deeply poetic story follows a young musician named Lian Daozi. On the road, he meets a mysterious young woman who claims she ran away from home. Warm, open, and talkative, the complete opposite of his quiet and guarded nature, she becomes his traveling companion. Together, they arrive at a desolate inn one night. What seems like an ordinary stop quickly turns surreal as the inn suddenly fills with phantom guests, apparitions of travelers who stayed there across more than 100 years. Among them are a famous Tang musician and his sister, a bureaucratic innkeeper, a storyteller who decides which tales are remembered, and others whose dialects reveal the ever-changing powers that once ruled this land. Each one carries their own story of hope, loss, and longing. Through their memories, Liang Zhou slowly uncovers the story of his own grandfather, whose name appears as the last entry in the old guest registry. He had stayed in this very inn 10 years ago and never continued his journey to Chang'an. As the story deepens, she gradually begins to fade, turning from a physical presence into a gentle narrating voice, only to reappear at the very end. This quest carries two beautiful interpretations of who she really is. Some believe she is the spirit of the pipa itself, the instrument's soul, guiding its future player. Others see her as Liang Zhou's own feminine inner aspect, representing the warmth and openness he struggles to access. In the end, whether she is the spirit of the instrument or a part of himself, her journey mirrors Liang Zhou's growth, from carrying an inherited longing to making the decision his own. This story is not just about reaching Chang'an, it's about choosing to walk the path, even when you don't know if you'll ever arrive. Let's talk about this moonlit pavilion costume I've been eyeing for a while. Before it was released, I was already putting in some draws on the previous banners, trying to accumulate as much pity as possible before it eventually drops. I told myself I'd be smart this time. Just a few draws to test the waters. You know, the usual, maybe luck will be on my side this time kind of hope. This quickly turned into a full-blown journey of pain. Anyways, let's roll the footage and see exactly how deep this rabbit hole went. One of the most beautiful and quietly devastating stories I've encountered in Liang Zhou is called Paper Moon. It follows Cao Jing Guanyin, an educated and composed young woman who had already quietly decided she didn't want the political marriage her family had arranged for her. She had been spending her days in the temple, copying a blood scripture in her own blood, a sutra offered as a prayer for her grandmother's illness. Except the illness was fabricated. Her grandmother hoped that she could come home, while Guanyin used the scripture as a reason to stay in the temple and avoid the marriage waiting for her. And Liu Li appeared where no one should have been. The temple staff noticed there was a commotion, so Liu Li ran and got out empty-handed. Not long after, a circus troupe arrived at the Cao mansion to perform. Liu Li took the opportunity to steal it before taking off. Guanyin gave chase, and it ended in a tent. And in that same tent, Liu Li let something else go, the guard she'd been keeping up this whole time. She revealed that she was a girl, not as a confession, just as a truth she'd decided Guanyin was worth telling. Thereafter, they began exchanging secret gifts. Small tokens passed back and forth over the following weeks. A hand-sewn sachet, hairpins, bracelets, books, things that were easy to give, yet impossible to take back. Liu Li asked her one simple question. Do you want to go to Chang'an with me? Guanyin said yes before the question was even finished. But their escape plan fell apart. While traveling to the Zhang mansion, Guanyin was caught in the middle of an assassination attempt and returned blind. Her family discovered everything and locked her in a tower. Alone in the darkness, she remembered Liu Li folding a paper moon for her by moonlight, because she couldn't give her the real one. Liu Li never abandoned her. She disguised herself as Guanyin, sent the real one out safely in the chaos, and took her place in the wedding procession heading northwest. An earthquake struck. Liu Li couldn't save the grandmother and couldn't pull herself free. In her final act, she transformed into moonlight. Now blind in one sense, but seeing clearly for the first time, Guan Ying continued walking toward Chang'an, carrying the paper moon and their shared dream. The Pocketrupt Circus was once famous throughout Liang Zhou. Each member possessed illusory arts, yet beneath their most optimistic face, each hides their own bitter story. Even the troupe's name foreshadows the lack in their lives. But they refuse to be bound by grief. Their greatest talent is painting color into life. After some searching, I eventually found Zhuge Ha in Skybrim Market. Once he disguised as an ordinary treasure case. I carried him all the way back to the troupe, only for the plan to immediately fall apart when Qing 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 ran off in a panic. Despite having a name that literally meant celebration and gentleness, the man was built like a mountain and terrified of strangers. Later, I found Qing 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 rehearsing with Wang Furen, the troupe's invisible performer, in private. It turned out the big man was deeply insecure about his own abilities. After offering him some encouragement, the troupe finally pulled themselves together. In the end, they decided to put on a full performance just for me, completely free, as thanks for helping them get back on their feet. Even though they were clearly struggling, they still chose to keep performing with whatever they had left. It was a small, strangely heartwarming moment in the middle of Liang Zhou. While traveling through the snowy lands of Liang Zhou, I came across a raw and heartbreaking story called A Bitter Draught of Home. It follows Ai Nu, a young woman of Western ethnic descent who tends to an abandoned vineyard in the desert. Her family had been winemakers for generations, secretly perfecting a recipe for the moonlight wine, grapes infused with the first dew collected under a full moon. Her father and brothers dreamed of owning their own vineyard and brewing freely. Instead, they were forced to serve a powerful local lord. They finally created the perfect batch and went to deliver it, but they never returned. Ainu kept the vineyard alive, still hoping one day they might come back. When I arrived, we climbed the homesite tower, a place filled with her family's memories and longing for home. After descending, we prepared the wine and headed to the Lord's banquet, genuinely hoping he would grant them the favor of returning home and allowing them to brew freely. The devastating truth was revealed. Ainu's quiet hope shattered. Her grief turned into cold fury. In that moment, we plotted our revenge together. As we stormed through the Lord's forces, our movements became perfectly synchronized. Ainu's slashing strikes mirroring mine exactly, as if we were two halves of the same fury. Every swing, every strike carried the same weight of pain, grief, and long-suppressed rage. In that moment, it felt like we weren't just fighting the Lord's men. We were both unleashing years of accumulated anger and loss onto the person who had taken everything from us. This quest is raw and unforgiving. It's about inherited dreams, shattered hope, and the heavy cost of revenge when justice is denied. LandLord, or Dou Caizhu, is where Winsmeet's version of the classic Chinese card game Dou Dizhu. In this game, one player takes on the role of a landlord, while the other two team up to take them down. Each player is dealt 17 cards, and the goal is to be the first to play out all your cards. You can form pairs, sequences, and other combinations, but there's also a powerful move, playing 4 of the same card. This lets you beat most combinations on the table, and can completely turn the momentum of the round in your favor. It's a game that rewards both careful planning and bold, well-timed plays. You get to play this against actual bosses, some of whom are on sick leave, while others are just openly slacking off. After Zhang Yichao chose to go to Chang'an as a political hostage, his nephew, Zhang Huaishen, was left to govern Hexi in his place. For years, he carried the heavy burden of holding the region together during increasingly unstable times. He was no longer the sharp, decisive warrior he once was in his youth. Governance had worn him down. Yet, despite the weight he carried, he never lost his resolve to stand against the tide. Then he was assassinated. His death did not just mark the loss of a leader. It accelerated the decline of the Guiyi army and threw Hexi into even greater chaos. But what made his assassination especially haunting was not just how, but why, and who was truly responsible. The truth was far more painful than a simple political assassination. On the night of his death, multiple forces had converged against him. There were enemy assassins from outside, treachery from those closest to him, and suspicion from the Tang imperial court itself. These forces, along with two others revealed through investigation, became known as the Five Banes. Instead of fighting a single enemy, we were made to confront the accumulated malice that surrounded Zhang Huaishen on the night he was killed. Through a series of investigations, we were able to dive into the memories of that fateful night. By inhabiting the perspectives of different people present at the governor's residence, from servants and stewards to monks and even the assassin himself, we slowly pieced together what truly happened. What we eventually faced was not just a ghost of the past, but Zhang Huaishen himself, manifested as the Five Banes. It was as though the sword he had long put away for the sake of governance had been drawn once more. He was not a villain driven by evil, but a man burdened by responsibility, suspicion, and betrayal. Someone who had tried to hold everything together until the very end. Fighting him felt heavy and tragic. It wasn't a battle against a monster, but against a man who had already been broken by the very people and forces he had tried to protect. And the cruelest part? We were fighting him from inside the body of the very man suspected of betraying him, So Xun. This chapter doesn't offer easy answers. It leaves us with difficult questions about responsibility, loyalty, and what it truly means to stand against the tide when everything is already falling apart. The governor's assassination did not merely take a life. It shattered what little order still held Liang Zhou together. In the fractured world that followed, another presence remained. She was known as the Moongazing Maiden. Long before the fall, she had come from Chang'an as a political bride, sent to Liang Zhou to secure peace at the borders. Instead of fading into the yellow sands and endless cold, she chose to build. She established schools, dug water channels, and tried to bring some measure of civilization and care to the people living in this harsh land. But history rarely remembers those who quietly hold things together. When Liang Zhou finally began to crumble, she climbed the home-gazing platform one last time. The same towering platform where others had stood before her, looking back toward their homeland. She looked toward Chang'an, knowing she would never see it again. When the snow finally stopped, she is what lingers after everything else has fallen. Her presence echoes the questions that have followed us through Liang Zhou. What do you carry when you cannot return home? What remains when the world you tried to protect has already broken? Like Cao Jing Guanyin, she was sent far from everything she knew, asked to serve a purpose not of her choosing. Like Lian Daozi, she stood on a high place and looked toward Chang'an with longing. And like Zhang Huaishen, her contributions were largely forgotten by history. Her name never carved into stone, her efforts buried beneath the weight of greater events. Now, in the ruins of what Liang Zhou once was, she waits. Not as a monster driven by hatred, but as a spirit still bound to the place she tried to nurture. Fighting her does not feel like a victory. It feels like confronting the quiet tragedy of someone who gave everything to a land that could not save her, and was still forgotten in the end. A sorrowful and lingering presence in the snows of a fallen Liang Zhou. Every major story we followed here seemed to revolve around the same quiet, painful question. What do you carry when you can no longer return home? It's not always a kind region, but it's honest about how heavy the road can be, and how some people still choose to keep walking even when there's no clear destination left. With that, let's take a sneak peek of what's coming up next. If you liked what you saw, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and drop a comment below telling me what you'd love to see in upcoming videos. I'll see you in the next one.